Here's a comment. We told y'all and you refused to listen, so I don't believe you now. So let me address that. Thank you for the comment. So I understand where that sentiment comes from. It is true that there were lots and lots of warnings that people offered about who Trump was, what kind of president he would be the first time around, now the second time around. And I think that as part of leaving MAGA, we don't require anyone to have to apologize, but we encourage it and we encourage to do it publicly because there's something that is freeing and cathartic about offering a mea culpa publicly. That's my leaving MAGA journey really started with going public in my denunciation of the MAGA movement and my support for Donald Trump. And it was something that I did thinking there would be no fanfare. I didn't think anyone would care. I didn't do it for attention. I did it just to cathartically close that chapter of my life and move on. So I understand why you might be struggling right now believing those who say that they've left MAGA, but I would ask you to try to find it within yourself to offer grace to those who sincerely go through a process of changing their minds. It's a very unnatural act for us to apologize. And I think that's why sometimes people are skeptical of those who left MAGA because apologizing is an unnatural act, especially to do it publicly. So I understand why MAGA may have traumatized you and others into feeling like you can't trust us, but we are doing the work to make amends. What I and I would ask, even if you don't trust me, I will accept that, but I would ask you to think about the others in our community who have gone through the process of publicly apologizing for their past MAGA activism. Something that I want to say about those in our community is that even though we don't require anyone to become a Democrat, all of our leaders, after they leave MAGA, vote Democratic. Full disclosure, I voted Democratic in 2024. I will vote Democratic again in November. I expect that I will be voting Democratic for quite some time because the Republican Party before Trump is over. Now, we can have a debate and a discussion as to whether whether the Republican Party has always been something like a MAGA party. I think Donald Trump is the logical conclusion of the GOP, but that's a different conversation for another time. I worked on Kamala's campaign in 2024. I was a co-chair for a committee here in Florida. I did outreach, I did media hits, I did op-eds on behalf of Kamala's campaign, and we all worked really hard to get her elected. So I'm sorry we didn't get the outcome that we wanted. But I understand the distrust that you might have. But I would ask you to think about whether it's better to invite or to reject, because there's really two steps to leaving MAGA. The first step is it's not enough to distance oneself from the president. Someone must renounce the lies, falsehoods, and conspiracy theories of MAGA politics. And the second part of leaving is to build up democracy rather than tear it down. And the way that we define that is by making the continued case that we as Americans agree on important issues more than we disagree. If we were to take a pro-MAGA and anti-MAGA person and bring them together, and they had a lengthy enough conversation, they would discover that there's more in common than they might think, and that we are more alike than we are unalike, and that we concur more than we differ. Myself and those who are in MAGA, all of you and those who are in MAGA, we want much of the same. We want economic opportunity. We want a safe and secure country. We want good schools for our kids. We want affordable housing. We want high quality healthcare that doesn't bankrupt us. This is all that we want. We want to reduce the number of deaths and violence as a result of guns, especially with children, because guns are a leading cause of death of children in our country. So I think we want so much of the same, but a lot of the media that we consume, both MAGA media and non-MAGA media, does a very poor job of reminding Americans that we actually agree more than we disagree. And so for those of you who might be feeling a lack of trust right now, we are willing to earn that trust if you're willing to be open to extending grace to those who change their minds. I am not a historian, so I don't proclaim to know what a historian might know, but what I do know about our history is that every time we have been in a crisis situation, the way that we have gotten past it, the way we've moved forward, the way we've progressed is by forming unlikely but necessary alliances. And I think that there's an opportunity for unlikely but necessary alliances between all of you out there and those who have left MAGA, who are voting Democratic and are voting to oust MAGA candidates or prevent them from getting elected. So I would ask you to please think about whether it is better to invite into the big tent or reject, because I think right now, whether we're talking about November or 2028 or beyond, we need as many people as we can get on the pro-democracy side. And those who are leaving MAGA are reintegrating themselves back into our democracy and into the democratic lowercase d fold.